Three, two, one. Hello, everybody, and we are
Hi.
live. Hi, I'm Veronica Valley,
Hello. I'm Chip Summers.
and you might know us from the Soberful podcast. I'm just going to share that. I
Yes.
have to just go on Facebook on my phone and share it into the Soberful Facebook group. Give
Shall
me.
I get my phone out and look at Facebook as well or
No,
not?
no,
Or
you
no,
just, I don't know,
no need.
tell a joke or something. Do you know any good jokes?
Tell a joke. I don't. No, I don't do jokes. I like to think I'm quite funny, but I
You're
don't
just,
tell jokes.
you're
I
just,
can't.
your whole life is a
The
joke.
jokes. The one joke I have is in such bad taste that it really
No,
is not appropriate at all.
no
No.
bad taste
No.
jokes.
No. 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 No.
Okay,
No.
so and we're live in both groups. Okay, welcome to this little mini workshop. Chip and I are showing up today to talk about moderation. So the title is I don't want to stop drinking, I just want to moderate, which is something that we hear quite a bit from.
Every every client, every
Really?
client. I think almost every client I've ever had has said, "Look, I've got a drink problem. I drink too much. I just want to learn how to get back to how I used to drink, when I was doing it normally, when it was under control. That's what I want to get back to. Can you help me do that?"
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think the main reason for that is people believe that alcohol is it's so intrinsically related to having fun and socializing that what people hear or what people think about when they think about stopping drinking is that they have to give that all up as well. And who
Yeah.
wants to do that?
Yeah,
I mean, who
exactly.
wants
And
to give
also,
up fun?
you're giving up coping mechanism, something that helped you. I mean, just as many people who say they want to go back to social drinking, actually, when you start going back to those people, what you're asking them is they started drinking for a reason. It helped them cope with difficulties, shyness, all sorts of things. And in most cases, very few people ever had a period of moderate drinking, but maybe 1 year out of 15 or something like that. But it's definitely what people want to do. They don't want to give up. They want to get back to what they call social drinking.
Yeah, and I kind of also always push people to think a little bit about what is your social drinking? What did your social
Yeah.
drinking look like? And the chances are, when people really have a good look at their social drinking, it actually wasn't that social. There was quite often
No,
arguments
exactly.
and quite often some fallings out, and quite often they were just sort of slurring.
Yep.
It's really funny. I was just on holiday in Cancun, and we were sitting outside having sushi in one of the restaurant bars, and a woman came and sat next to us, and she was smoking. So I kind of got up and left because I really don't like it. And my husband got chatting to her, and she was talking about she'd been there for a couple of weeks, and she'd spent Christmas there with her daughter. And my husband was like, "Oh, what was it like spending Christmas Day at the resort?" And she said, "I have no idea. I was completely drunk. I can't remember any of it," and laughed. And me and my husband kind of just went, that's your daughter's second Christmas and you can't remember it. And she kind of saw our faces. We were like, that's and but I think in her mind that was probably social drinking. It's Christmas, all of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it really kind of pays to actually kind of deconstruct a little bit, like, what was your social drinking like? So
Yeah. And a lot of people say to me also, they say, "Well, look, I just do what everybody else does nowadays. I just drink a bottle of wine a night, which is what everybody does." And I think a lot of people do think that a bottle of wine a night is perfectly normal
civilized.
social drinking. Yeah, it's what every couple do in the evening, if not just a solo person.
Yeah.
And yeah, and again, it's I always do that same thing you do. I go, but what was your social drinking like? And I find that they always struggle to actually. Well, the first year was all right, but then when you really dig down, there's actually been very little social drinking.
Yeah. So
And it's incredible, that thing you were saying just now about that woman blacking out, how people think that blackout, which is a really serious thing, to have an ability to black out, it's a really serious indicator. People do say quite glibly, Oh, well, I did blacked out that night. I can't really remember that night, and
There's huge
and
chunks of the evenings that I can't remember.
yeah, and they say it as if it's like I had a headache.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
normalized abnormal drinking. The reason,
completely.
like,
Yeah,
we hear that stuff, I did it. We all did it. We tell ourselves these stories. And what it does is it just normalizes, especially if I'm at work the next day, I've got a car, like I don't have a problem because I have all the things. And what we do is we normalize abnormal drinking
yeah,
in a way that just because everybody's doing it, and then it takes a little perspective to see, like, you know what, that's just crazy. But let's talk about moderation and what that experience can be like, because I think for some people it's something that they have to try for a while.
absolutely.
What's Here's the thing, in our experience, when people who don't have a problem with alcohol don't ever think about it. Like, they just don't, doesn't rent any space in their head. They don't think about it.
Exactly. Exactly.
People who have a drink problem tend to think about it a lot. Now, when you've got to that point, there's already some issues with alcohol. Alcohol's not a positive thing in your life.
Yeah.
So it can it can be really hard to kind of, we're asking, what we're trying to do is go back to how things were. Now, the reason that moderation can be challenging is often when you've been drinking for a while and drinking regularly, you're not actually drinking for like the effects that we used to have years ago. You're drinking because it just sort of makes you feel a bit more normal and a bit more comfortable in your own skin because of tolerance.
Because of tolerance, exactly. Because there's no human being on earth that cannot develop a tolerance to alcohol. Your body will, the stuff that's going on inside it, it will build up a tolerance. So whereas when you were 17, a bottle of wine would have made you completely paralytic, now, a few years later, your tolerance has grown, and there's nothing you can do to kind of diminish the growth of your tolerance. It will always get bigger. A year later, you need 2 bottles of wine to get you to the same state, or whatever it is. But everybody will develop a greater and greater tolerance to alcohol or opiates, which is obviously the thing that's most associated with tolerance. You will develop a tolerance whether you like it or not. So, you obviously will end up drinking more and more because you're chasing that same feeling that you were so many years ago. And it's really you can't go back in time. That's the trouble. You can't go back in time and have a bottle of wine and feel completely drunk 10 years later. It's not going to work.
So
I often sorry,
go on.
I often just change the substance. We talk about alcohol, let's talk about smoking. Okay, so you used to be a 20 a day smoker. Do you want to go back to why don't you go back to being a 10 a day smoker? And people usually go, well, we all know you can't do that. I'll be 10 cigarettes for the first day, and then I'll be back up again. People find the idea of going back and sort of doing social smoking from 20 a day, they all know that it's completely impossible. So I'm afraid that I think it's a difficult one to pull off. And I don't know many people who have managed to pull it off, although everybody wants to.
So that's the challenge. One of the challenging things about moderation is your body and everything has changed from when you started drinking. And I'm going to say, if you're watching this, probably at least 10 years, probably 20 years, maybe even 30 years or more. Your body and everything is completely different. So the amount of alcohol you needed to just have that nice little buzz 10, 20 years ago, you're going to require much more now. So you might, that's why the whole, I'm just going to go out and have 2 glasses of wine. I'm just going to go out and have 2 glasses of wine tonight. And why can't I do that? So you have your first glass and then you have your second glass, and they haven't got you to where you want to be in that buzzy feeling, so that you require probably 3, 4 or 5 to get you to that place. That's why you can't go out and have 2 glasses of wine like other people seem to be able to, or how you did 10, 20 years ago or whatever. Because your brain remembers that feeling. The chemical comes in, your brain goes, oh, okay, well, I want to create that feeling. I'm going to need this amount of alcohol to get there. And it's going to be more than you're telling yourself. So your brain chemistry is working against you. It's like swimming upstream trying to do that. But I've seen people put masses of effort and energy, like to go out and have those 2 glasses and prove to themselves that they can have those 2 glasses.
Yeah. And they might do it for 2 nights.
Yeah.
They might do it for 2 nights to sort of prove a point. But what you were talking about just now, what's really interesting lately with the science that's becoming to be developed is being able to see how the brain reacts. And once the brain has kind of associated problem with reward, you can see the brain, the neural pathways light up like a motorway, like an interstate. It's like, and it once that interstate highway has been established, you know, it goes there very quickly, and it takes a lot to feed that. You need a lot of stuff to get the reward that you should do in the front there, and it's really interesting to watch how that we can see now how the brain reacts to things like that. And once that, as I said, once that pathway has been introduced and been made and established, that's the pathway it's going to need to be fed, and it's a big fat pathway that needs a lot of alcohol in order to feed it the same way. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I know people will often point to the fact that they went on holiday and they didn't drink, or they went away for 2 weeks and didn't drink, so that shows that they can actually moderate it whenever they want to. So I go, okay, well, why not next week then? And then, not quite so easy. And I think it's, I have known patients without any doubt at all in my career. I have known, I would say probably 3 clients who've done it. Out of, I don't know how many I've seen, thousands.
I haven't seen anyone do it. Not with a huge price.
I don't know what the price was. All I know is that I know somebody who was drinking a bottle of spirits a day, and he said one day, right, that's it, I'm just going to drink a glass of wine a night, and he did it. But I can assure you, I wouldn't build a theory around his behavior.
Yeah.
You know, he is so rare. The odds are so stacked against you. And the analogy time I use is, okay, so there's 250 of you lined up on the bank. There's a lovely island about 100 yards away, but in between is man-eating sharks, right? 250 of you, one of you is going to get to the other side. Off you go. Who's going to jump in the water first?
Yeah, that's a really, I'm just going to give it to you. It's the best analogy. I'll just give it to you.
That's the odds you're talking about, easily, at least. Would you jump in the water? Not a chance.
It's the same as like everyone's got a great Uncle Jack who smoked and drank every day of his life and lived to a grand old age of 98. Yeah, there's always somebody. But for me, it goes back to the amount of effort that like emotional energy and effort it takes to try and do that. And it's really kind of take a step back and go, like, is that what you want on your gravestone? She tried really, really, really hard and put in all this energy and effort so she could manage having just about 2 drinks, every so often. Or do you want to put that energy and effort into something that's just more meaningful and productive?
Yeah.
Oh God, my mother just tried to Skype me at the same time there. The other thing is that makes
you went white then for a moment.
She'll do it again in a minute. I'll have to be. The other thing that makes it really hard is so people go out and like, I'm just gonna have 2 drinks tonight. I'm just if any of you are watching, if you've done that, like I know I did that. Like I'm just gonna have 2. I'm so determined that I just feel really like that's what I'm gonna do. The thing is, when we ingest alcohol, it's a mood and mind altering substance. So we don't make, you may have had this experience, very good decisions when we've had some alcohol in our bodies. So
No.
in your sober, semi-sane state, you can decide you're not going to do X, Y, and Z. But when that chemical comes in and changes everything around, then all of that stuff just goes out of the window. So all
Completely.
of this is like swimming upstream.
Yeah.
I have a quick question here from Sarah. I tried to have one beer after skiing, ended up having like 9 after stopping at a store and taking some of my husband's and gone back to day 1. So frustrating. I don't even know. I thought I could have 1 or 2. Never going to happen. You know, Sarah, I think everybody goes through this process of trying to moderate. It's part of the process of
I was
going to
say that. I was going to say that earlier on. I think that's a continuum that everybody goes in. They start off. The first bit of the continuum is quite enjoyable. It does what it says on the tin. It does what thing. Then your tolerance starts to increase. And you drink more and more and more and more, and then eventually you think, oh, maybe I've got a bit of a problem, and you try and stop on your own. Doesn't really work. And then you get to that stage where you think, okay, and then that's part of the process. And then often you'll get, well, I'll stay sober for a period of time, and then that doesn't work. And then eventually you end up having to watch videos like this.
There's another...
Why are you wearing a hospital band?
Oh, because I was in hospital last night. I'll tell you that it was a minor thing. It was like one of those things you think it was a major... I thought it was appendicitis. It wasn't. But that's
headache?
No. But that's why I didn't get to bed till 3 a.m. So I've had about 3 hours sleep. So I forgot to take it off. So there's also another question for Rebecca. And I just want to say, Rebecca, we did a podcast. She's talking about drinking when she feels in a good mood. We did a podcast episode about this in December. I think it was the first one in December called Drinking on Success. So check that out, because I think that will answer your question. So what we suggest to people who are in that place of, I don't want to stop drinking, I just want to moderate and drink sociably, is why don't you consider stopping drinking for 6 months? So if you think of a whole lifetime, let's hope you live to a grand old age of 90, 6 months is nothing.
Absolutely.
For ladies out there, I know lots of people have managed to do that through pregnancy. So if you've done it through a pregnancy, for example, or maybe you're a guy and you're training for a marathon or something. So 6 months is really manageable amount of time. It doesn't feel too scary. And this is really important. It's not just like, okay, right, I can do that. I'll just stop drinking for 6 months. I would just find out as much as you can about yourself. Do some work on yourself. Use that time to really invest in yourself, in exercise.
See how it feels physically.
Yeah.
See what physical changes there are. See if you start to feel better. See if you start to sleep better. See if your mood's better in the morning. See if your work ethic is better. Just check it out over a period of time. Keep a journal or whatever. But
examine your
I'm
life
pretty
a bit.
confident. I'm pretty confident with 6 months, you will notice some very, very, very positive changes.
Yeah, that's generally what we find happens is, it's things like people, it's not unusual for people kind of to stop drinking and then kind of realize a lot of the people they spend their time with, they don't actually like them that much. And they're kind of spending a lot of time socializing with people they actually don't care for. And they start kind of doing different things. And then they find kind of sometimes their relationships with people improve and that kind of stuff. And the thing is, we can almost guarantee at the end of 6 months, you're going to feel so much better. You can then make a choice. Do I want to go? Because you'll get real clarity. Like, this is what it feels like not drinking. And you can compare it to what drinking is. And it's also time to realise it is a bit weird at the beginning, like socialising sober and figuring all that out. It takes a little bit of time. But you will hopefully in that time have those experiences. Do you know, I just did an interview yesterday with a lady who was in a K-pop punk band. And she was drunk. She was a K-pop, it's Korean pop, Chip. You look confused.
Okay, right. Thank you. I'm glad you saw the mystification on my face. I hadn't got a clue. I thought it was just like a yurt. I was thinking of a yurt when you said.
No, you're way
I
off
thought
track.
it was some kind of no.
And she toured the world with her band, and she's an amazing guitarist. The band was called Nylon Pink. They're really good. And
yes, I know them. Yeah.
It's like an Asian girl band. They were amazing. And she was drunk every time. And when she got sober, she got asked to do this tour. And she said it was the most incredible experience of her life. Like, she had never played in front of people sober, and she was terrified at first. But now she's done it. You can't even imagine. Like, the buzz was so big of just doing that in front of an audience of thousands of people sober. So it's enough for you to have some sober experiences and all of that kind of stuff. So if that's the journey that you're on, we would love to invite you to join us in the Sober for Life subscription group. It's not on Facebook, and you can cancel at any time. It's $23.99, which is the price of 1 or 2 good bottles of wine. In that group, we support people on their sober journey.
6 bad ones.
Yeah, or 6 bad ones. Yeah, I was the 6 bad ones. We support people on their sober journey, and we help them build a soberful life with all of the kind of things that you need. Because it's not, you probably figured this out, it's not just stopping drinking. There's a whole bunch of other stuff you need to do to really kind of not just make your sobriety solid, but also live the life that you really want to live. Because you might find that alcohol has made your life smaller, and that sobriety can actually make it bigger. We have workshops, we have different kinds of support groups, we have some coaching groups. Where
lectures.
Chip does lectures.
I do.
We have some coaching groups that we do. I do one. I've started a new one this month. It's called, so if you join today, you can take part. It's next week. It's called Empowering Habits, and where I coach you to do some of the like regular kind of journaling stuff that I do that just helps me understand why I respond to the world the way I do, why I feel the way I do, it kind of really just helps me figure things out and just helps me grow. We also have an intuitive eating program that's starting. It's a coaching program that starts, I think it's in the next couple of weeks as well, where those of you who have some issues around disordered, dysfunctional eating can come along and get in front of Coach Tiffany, and she'll give you some help and support around that. Then there's just tons of other stuff. There's a community, it's global. There's always someone online somewhere. It's really, really supportive. The membership closes in just a few days. So if you want to join, please do so now so you can access all of that good stuff. If you have questions, just post them in the Facebook group or email me. We'll be back with a few more workshops next week before membership closes. But if you are on this journey and ready to make this change, do it today. What have you got to lose? So thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you. And we will see you soon. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.